Welcome to the Soul of Travel. This is episode 5, and today I'm really excited to be speaking with Jake Haupert from the Transformational Travel Council, among many other things. and I am really excited about this topic because it's one that is near and dear to my heart, and also one that I just have recently not discovered, but aligned myself with this community, obviously, and realized that there's a lot more people out there talking about this and thinking about this than I initially knew. So that has been a really exciting discovery for me. What I'd like to do first is for our listeners to give you the opportunity to tell us a little bit about yourself, the Transformational Travel Council, and then also you can share about your other businesses and give people a general understanding of who you are and what you offer.
Okay. Like I said, I'm Jake. I am based in Seattle and currently in my house in the Beacon Hill neighborhood, and married. Got two kids, two dogs, two cats, and a hamster. So my hands are full. And Co-founded the Transformational Travel Council. It's coming up on 4 or 5 years ago. For those that don't know, the Transformational Travel Council is really all about this community that sees an opportunity to reimagine and rebuild travel around personal development, life optimization, and really creating something that's more beautiful and more impactful on us as individuals, the communities at home, the communities and the hosts that we touch and engage with internationally. We've got a global membership of transformational travel practitioners that are part of our community. We're really hoping to share ideas, collaborate, and raise awareness in the market in regard to what transformational travel is and the impact that it can have on our lives and on our civilization.
Excellent. Well, I think that is all really important, and I've shared this a little bit on previous episodes, but I'll share it again. Can you still hear me? Because I just hit a mute button, so I didn't hear my notifications. Okay.
I can hear you.
I was attending an event, a travel trade industry event in February, and I was really excited. It was my first event sharing Lotus Sojourns, and I arrived and set up my space and left pretty quickly because a lot of other people had more extravagant setups than I did. And I came back the next morning ready to see the row for adventure travel, responsible travel, kind of more social impact travel. And it literally was one row, like maybe a half a row, and there was someone giving massages and selling books and like dry cleaning or something like that didn't even make sense. And I was like simultaneously heartbroken and excited because I thought, if my people are here, then I'm going to stand out to them. And why aren't there more people here representing this kind of travel? And I have worked in the industry with a focus on this kind of area of responsible travel, educational travel, sustainable travel. I kind of lump it into conscious travel, and transformational travel is where I really started to focus when I built my business, even though I didn't know that was necessarily a term yet. And I just, in that moment, kind of thought, how do we let people know that we're out there? Because this is the people I generally network with and gravitate towards and collaborate with. I just envisioned us being like half of that beautiful market space. And when I would connect with people as they came up to my booth and I started to tell them what I did, there was either this, you definitely could tell it was not for them, or they would say, no, I'm not there yet. But the people that it resonated with, like, couldn't walk away. they just were so surprised that there was something out there that was like this. They just couldn't believe that. And I offer trips exclusively for women, and I kind of explain it as combining adventure travel with personal development. That's my like easy way to describe it to consumers. But then they ask like, what does that mean? And I start to explain the day, and they get so excited. And I think that this conversation is going to become even more important given the current global environment, and where people, I think, are really going to be like thinking about what their travel is in terms of the time they're committing to it, the costs associated with it, re-engaging with travel after not being able to travel. People are already going to be thinking, and then what they want back from their travel experiences, I think and hope will be different. And I wonder for you, what do you see shifting in this time of kind of this pause and re-engagement of travel?
Yeah, I would say that when we're challenged, and that's a really important and instrumental part of what I think is really important to the practice of transformational travel. You have to overcome challenge. You have to overcome obstacle. It's about becoming comfortable with being uncomfortable. And right now, everyone's being challenged. Everyone is uncomfortable. And that inevitably, sort of illuminates, the internal dialogue that we might be having, and we start to really understand, and take a step back and, take stock in our lives. Are we happy? Are we aligned? Are we on the right path? We have this chance to take this deep breath. And, with that, I think that, people are going to come out of this with a little bit more clarity on the value and the possibility that travel provides. To use that as an opportunity to learn and to grow, and to really start to explore new ways of being and engaging with the world. So in short, where travel used to be just for most people, just about fun and relaxation, and disconnecting, escapism, if you will. And there's still going to be obviously parts of that, but I think that now there's going to be way more focus on intention and purpose, and what are your desired outcomes. Travel is always been inherently risky, and this current environment, there's another added dimension to that. And so, just as if, just like we have to bring intention and purpose to why we leave our houses now, I think that's you're going to continue to see that evolve, and integrate into why and how do we travel with more meaning? How do we travel better? And how do we travel to support our own personal growth, and actualization?
Yeah, I agree. I love that. And I forgot to ask this when we started, but for people that aren't familiar with transformational travel, can you
Mm-hmm.
just provide what your definition of transformational travel is and what the TTC uses as their guideline for that?
Yeah. The transformational travel is intentionally traveling to stretch, learn, and grow into new ways of being and engaging with the world. And that is an active definition. That is, we feel that it isn't a product or necessarily a moment. That it is a mindset, a philosophy. It's how you approach your journey. And we break it up into pre-journey, pre-trip. All of the process and all of the intention setting that happens there, and then you go into the journey itself, and you want to be practicing present moment awareness. You want to be reflecting. You want to be giving yourself opportunity to overcome challenge. And then you're looking at meaning making, and when you come home, what action are you going to take in your life? What sort of changes do you want to see? It's not necessarily changing who you are, but it's changing who you are being. And that leads to some pretty incredible opportunities for travelers, because it really allows them to become more mindful in how they approach their life. They can make more mindful decisions in terms of not only how they travel, but how they live. And that ripple effect is obviously tremendous, and affects all of us in a really beautiful way.
Yeah, I think that I like the definition and showing how it is active and engaged, because I think some people hear the word transformation and they get intimidated. But I feel like that definition really opens it up to be available to everyone and can really help us as travel providers to meet our guests where they are, and with setting those intentions and knowing their outcomes, we can help them to achieve that. And it might really just be um, managing the discomfort of being in a country where they don't speak the language, and that really might be something that that is really altering for them. And someone else might be really diving into something else that they're trying to reach out of the trip. And I think also, that said, you can have a group of 10 people who are having all different levels of transformation at the same time, and then pulling from each other's experiences to enhance what they're getting out of the trip. Um,
Yeah.
I just am curious, have you seen that? And what would you share with people who are maybe apprehensive about what this means, or how they might participate in an experience like this?
Yeah, I would say that the term transformation and transformational travel certainly is challenging for most. And I think what you said about, it's really important to meet people where they're at is the solution. Because the reality of it is that we're always changing, we're always evolving, we're always growing. And so this just sort of uh, creates an opportunity to actively engage in that process, right? So now you're using travel as a catalyst, as this tool. And so transformational travel companies and designers, they're going to be artfully skilled at, helping you and coaching you or mentoring you through that process, meeting you where you're at, and designing and working with or consciously designing itineraries that take you out of your comfort zone just a little bit more than maybe that you want or anticipate. So you feel a little bit more disoriented. You're being challenged emotionally, physically, but really that is where the magic is. If we talk about challenge brings focus, and with focus brings flow, and that flow state. When traveling and everything just seems to be going well. You're just tapped in. You're meeting the right people. You're going to the right restaurants. You're having the right experiences, and you just that's that magic of travel that I think most travelers are coveting when they hit the road. And so we're able to sort of hack that experience. Go look into ancient wisdom, look into contemporary science, look into different methodologies and modalities that support that active engagement, and bring people along, meet them where they're at, so they can really learn, grow, and change.
Yeah, that experience happened to me the last time I was in Guatemala, and it was almost surreal. It started the minute that we got on our flight, and the person I was traveling with ended up sitting next to this woman who she was definitely destined to meet. And like, before they even took off, they were exchanging phone numbers, and she had really wanted to meet this woman who we were going there actually specifically to meet. It was kind of one of her dreams that she aspired to connect with this woman because she was a leader in their community. And then 3 days later, she was flying back to New York to attend an event. And my friend Maria called and she said, "You'll never guess who I'm sitting by on this flight to New York." And it was this woman. And it was just, I mean, it seems impossible. And then at the same
Yeah.
time, like, if you really think about how open we were to the magic of this trip happening, like, there was no way that wasn't going to happen. And we went and had dinner with Maria that night. We told her all about this woman, gave her phone number, and 2 days later they were having an 8-hour conversation on a flight. And that was just, that was before we even landed, and it just kept happening. And every night we would reflect on our day and think, it just couldn't get better than this. It couldn't be more powerful than this. We couldn't possibly connect with people more than we did today. It just couldn't happen. And every day, this journey just gave us the next. It just up leveled. It just kept raising the bar for us and giving us one more thing to overcome and to enjoy. And yeah, by the end of the trip, it was definitely life-changing. I mean, it was very transformational. And I can't say that that has happened every time I've traveled. But when I kind of set off with this mindset of intentionality and being open, I can say that for sure it's a much more impactful experience. And so I love that you talk about the journey starting before you even travel. And I think even for me, because of this time where I've been focusing on connecting with my community of travelers when we can't travel, that experience is actually beginning now. And like really trying to think about that, like,
Yes.
because I can't travel with them, what do I hope to offer them when we travel? And it's, you know, connection with women, ways to connect to spirit, ways to challenge themselves and grow. Well, I can pull all of those things into our community right now. And so then that, even with the work that I've been doing right now with the TTC, has been making me think about how can I bring that into my business as a part of my model and not just this kind of happy accident that happened right now. And I just really love that this becomes almost like a coaching process through the beginning, the duration, and then after the trip, so that it has such a greater chance of connecting with the traveler and offering that experience. Um,
Yeah.
I'm curious for you, because all of your businesses are tied into this more conscious way of traveling. What inspired you to get into tourism, and what shaped who you are to be to have set out on this path and to engage in tourism in this way?
Mm. Um, yeah, I think that you know, going back and really reflecting on the primary influences in my life and the experiences that I had that sort of molded and created who I am and the work that I'm passionate about. I see this common thread of like curiosity and exploration. Something that I got from very much from my grandmother, who was a world traveler, in the 50s and the 60s and 70s, and she went to, I think, over 100 countries, which was just really unheard of at that time.
Wow.
And she was always bringing me back different stories and different souvenirs and sharing those with me and really stoking that explorer fire that was within me at a very early age. Simultaneously, my mother, we didn't travel a lot growing up, but yet her way of experiencing travel was by exploring within, and she was deeply spiritual and is a healer, and so I grew up in this environment that was both inner and outer world exploration. And then early on in my 20s, I recognized that I had this entrepreneurial spirit. I recognized that I cared about conservation, and so that sort of pushed me into ecotourism at the time, and sustainable tourism. And it was about 7 or 8 years ago where I had my own sort of dark night of the soul, where I really was faced with I feel a little out of alignment. I feel like I'm not really living my calling, and so did some inner work and went on some trips, went to Kilimanjaro with some great friends, and gained a lot of clarity and recognized that common sort of thread of the inner and outer world. And at the time, I was my former company, Evergreen Escapes, was was in luxury travel, and I realized that so much of travel had become so commoditized and sanitized, and it just became almost transactional again, where the OTAs were driving a lot of the experiences that people were having, when they were traveling. And I felt like that was that didn't support the society or civilization that I envisioned, wanting to be a part of. And I always felt like travel was this incredible catalyst, to breaking down walls within, and then also building bridges between us. But in the way that has been crafted and curated and marketed and distributed over the last 20 or 30 years, I just didn't feel like that really served the magic and the power that I know exists within travel. And so that's when this term transformation has been bubbling up for many years within the travel space and used to define these really incredibly powerful moments. So I started really diving deep into those concepts and those ideas and that philosophy. And just like when you're on a travel experience and you find that flow, you surrender and you find that serendipity and that synchronicity. Well, all of a sudden I started just surrounding myself with people that were on that similar path. Through those conversations, very, very powerful, long conversations, we were able to sort of craft an idea and a business around this very ethereal or mystical aspect of travel in hopes of making it accessible and tangible for travelers everywhere, because we really do feel that this is the way we should be traveling. Sorry if I rambled on a little bit on that, but that's some backstory there.
No, I think that's important. And that's, that's what I really want to do with this Soul of Travel series, is show people what is behind it, because I think that's really important. And I think that people will resonate with that. And that's why, when I explain it to people outside of the industry, I just say it's not something that we do. It's something we can't not do. Like, we have to travel and we have to show the world in this way, through this lens and through these connections. And I was so grateful when I signed up for the mentor program that I'm doing with you, and I did my interview with Tanner, and it was like the first time I had a conversation with someone where I felt like every single thing I said they actually understood, and they weren't just like nodding and smiling. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is it. And then we started the program, and we read Michael Bennett's PhD thesis, and I was like, what? This is like a thing. Like, this is so amazing. These are the words I use. These are words that I connect with. And I thought I knew that it was true, but I hadn't had someone else put it into like this container that I could share with other people before. So I'm really grateful for this community that is allowing that space, and also just making it more accessible to those of us who kind of maybe have felt like we were doing this on our own, to be able to come together and have a greater impact and share what we've already learned and come together to build something stronger that serves a greater community. And I also love that it's a very collaborative and supportive community in that regard, that it's not, nobody's coming here to learn all the secrets so that they can do it better. Like, everybody wants everybody to know all of the secrets so that we can serve the greater community and our traveling community. And so I just think that's really, really powerful. And I think that, again, this is what I think travelers are going to be looking for. And I hope that there's going to be a lot of people that are seeking these experiences and trying to shake how do I want to say this? Connect it, like you were saying, to this experience right now where we're kind of forced within because we're staying home and we're staying slow and we're reflecting, like carrying that out into the world when we set out and traveling again. I think the two just tie together so perfectly. And so I'm really excited about that. I also am wondering, we've kind of talked about this, I guess, but in terms of for someone who is looking to travel, this is piquing their interest, transformational travel might be what they're looking for. Can you really quickly pinpoint, like, how would this experience differ than what maybe a more mainstream or mass tourism experience offers? I don't, if you could maybe help discern that for people that are listening.
Yeah. I really appreciate what you said about the community and bringing everyone together, and sharing ideas and collaborating, masterminding. I think that there are a lot of people that have been traveling this way and, for a very long time and connect with it. But I think for the mass market, a lot of, we've been conditioned to approach travel a certain way, and it goes back to what I said earlier, this opportunity to just escape, and relax, and it's totally passive. You're sort of going at it with this attitude of like entertainment and entitlement, and consumerism and extraction, none of which really honors the experience of travel, the destination, communities, and hosts that you visit. But to sort of make it a little bit more tangible for those that are interested, or this might be inspiring them a little bit to open up to it. It's really about bringing a growth mindset. And I think that that's really approachable for most. For a lot of people, whether it's a yoga practice, a meditation practice, it could be how they approach their fitness and exercise. There is intentionality that's being put into that, and then they're being mindful as they go through that process, and they're working toward desired results or desired outcomes. So in a lot of ways, travel needs to shift into that opportunity to become a practice, something that you nurture and develop as you travel more and more and more. And as you travel more, you're going to have richer, more meaningful connection, with others, with self, with something bigger, and that's really what ends up inspiring us from an intrinsic level to change once we get home, whether that's simply to become a better parent, a better partner. It may, we may want to take on a new skill, a new hobby. We may be building up new ways of being in terms of traits, building up empathy, building up a sense of stewardship, all of which is really going to be beneficial, not just to the traveler, but to their ecosystem, to their network, in the communities, and ultimately humanity.
I love the two things. One, I love that you just, for me, connected how much there is an alignment between responsible tourism and transformational travel, in that more giving sense of travel than taking sense. Because I sometimes felt like they might be disjointed, that they're two different things that I'm trying to put together because they're important to me. But in that sense, they do go together. They go hand in hand. That it is important for me when I travel to honor the community and the environment and the culture where I am, and to be a respectful guest of their community. I mean, that I'm sometimes I feel over aware of that, but I really want to respect who it is that I'm connecting with. I want to be respectful of their culture. I don't want to have that kind of like voyeuristic mindset of just like, I'm looking at everything, taking pictures, and being entitled when I travel that this experience is mine, you're giving it to me. And I want to be immersed in it and be in it with them. Like I absolutely actually just want to be a fly on the wall, and then have a moment where I can really intentionally connect. So thank you for that, because I think that's a really powerful awareness for me. And then just thinking about how people will be, and we kind of already said this, just seeking these more powerful experiences versus that quick mindset. I often try to explain to I say that I don't, my traveler isn't someone that's looking for like a sunburn and a hangover. They're not going to travel with me. Like, it's definitely not escapism. It's like, it's so intentional and immersive, and it's just a very different way of traveling. And it's like, the minute I had that experience, I could never go back. And some people, they're like, oh, let's go do this, and I'm like, I can't invest my time in that experience. Like, I would gladly go there, but I can't go there and do that. And it sometimes, I guess, maybe can sound a little conceited or something, but it's just, my time is really valuable, and the people who I'm connecting with, their time is really valuable, and I just want to honor that exchange. I think one other thing that's really has been powerful to share, and I know this is something I often share, is my own transformational experiences, because then people can resonate with that. And I'm wondering if you would be willing to share a travel experience that you had that you felt was really powerful and transformational for you.
Yeah, happy to. going back to what you said in terms of, the communities, and engaging with the hosts just briefly. I mean, it is a dance, right? And being open to that and being tuned into that and sharing in that moment, is so incredibly powerful. And that's why we, talk about traveling with heart, be humble, be engaged, be awake, resilient, and thankful. That helps you approach the journey and your companions and participants in that journey in a deep and more meaningful way. The experience that I mentioned earlier, I said that I was kind of going through some challenging times and looking to reimagine my life and my career, and I was in a dark place, and I've got this group of friends that we do an annual backpacking trip, and that year, prior to me sort of getting or falling into this hole or this depression, we'd set our sights on Kilimanjaro, so it was a group of, I think, 10 of us, my closest friends and a mentor and some of his friends. We went up to Kilimanjaro, and it was the first time that I sort of actively, I guess, engaged the experience in the group that I was with and contemplating, why were we here? What were we seeking to get out of it? What were our motivations? And the night before we started hiking, we did a toast and everyone said something, and we talked a little bit about, we're in our 40s, some of us in our 50s, and we're sort of at this juncture, that midlife, right? And we wanted to really use, the opportunity of going up the mountain to contemplate on our first half of life. And then, once we get to the summit, to really celebrate and use that as this sort of ceremonial event, where we cross this threshold into our second half and reflect on that on the way down. And so that was the first time that I actively engaged with that. And so we had these really amazing conversations on the way up. And we ended up getting close to the summit. We were at the fall summit on Kilimanjaro. Those that have climbed it or hiked it know what I'm talking about. But the sun was rising, and one of my friends, dear friends, he was just so deeply moved in that moment that he started to cry, and that cry turned into weeping. And next thing I know, like, everyone in the group sort of got caught up in this emotion in that moment, and we all released. We all started just crying on each other's shoulders. It was a group of 10 guys crying at the top of Kilimanjaro, and it wasn't because of the physical challenge, and a lot of us had climbed peaks before, and but because we assigned meaning, because we signed intention, the mountain ended up being symbolic for so much more, and it was different for each and every one of us. But in that moment, we recognized that we were at that halfway point of life, and so coming down from that, that really sort of cemented my decision to move into transformational travel. I really felt like, that was an experience that I wanted other people to have, and so that's just sort of opened up all sorts of doors, and coming back from that, it was pretty clear, that my calling was this work, and bringing this part of travel back into the space, and hopefully gifting it to travelers around the world.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Yeah, that's amazing. And it brought to mind the thought of thinking about people who typically travel this way. I would say I know so many people, but they do this alone. And your story just reminded me of those moments when I have traveled alone and had those experiences and thought, what if I was doing this with a group of people? How much more powerful would that be? So then seeing, like, you might have had a powerful experience if you'd done that journey by yourself, but by being able to tap into his experience and the group, it just amplifies that, or a subtlety maybe that you might have overlooked, they're tapping into in that moment. And so it just becomes much more full. So I think that's really really powerful to think about that, and why this kind of travel, even if you're traveling solo, I guess, but within a group of strangers on an excursion like this with someone guiding this type of trip, you might get more out of it than you can realize by tapping into that group energy and that collective experience. I
Yeah,
don't
and
know
not to
if
say
you have
that.
anything to share about that, but
Well, yes, I mean that shared experience, that shared transformational experience is super powerful. Vulnerability is a tricky thing, and every one of those people or the participants in that walk, successful, have wonderful families. They're, for all intents and purposes, they've got pretty beautiful lives and lots to be thankful for. But it kind of goes back to what we were saying earlier in terms of transformation being uncomfortable, and recognizing that no matter how good we think things are, there is the opportunity to learn, and to connect, and to change. It is that opportunity for growth, and bringing vulnerability and being vulnerable with others and saying, hey, I feel a little bit out of alignment in this part of my life, or I feel a little disconnected here, or I feel like I could do better here. Having those conversations and creating that container in a group setting can be super powerful, because it immediately makes you feel less alone and less isolated. And so this goes into, this is why so many of these journeys should be guided. You should be working with a travel professional or travel coach that can help you through this process. One thing that we're really excited about at the TTC, because people travel, they don't need to travel with a travel company. We travel every time we head outside our door, when we go to the coast or we go hiking. And these methodologies and these ideas and practices should be integrated into our daily lives that way. So you're not always going to have a coach, a transformation coach. And so we've written a book, a transformational travel guide and journal, that's filled with prompts and challenges and inspiration and wisdom that is meant to guide you through that process of travel. We're going to be doing a Kickstarter campaign this summer on that, and super excited, because that really is going to empower travelers to set out on a journey on their own and start to dabble in this, right? And you can take what you want from it. It might be a few pages, it might be the entire thing, but the important thing is it's going to open you up a little bit more to the power of travel.
I love that. I think that really connects with the idea of travel being a practice as well. And that's like the beginning of your practice, right? The yoga video you watch on YouTube that you explore in the safety of your own home, and then you can kind of reach out for more, and you can slowly build that muscle and start to travel that way. So
Absolutely.
I think that's really amazing. And then I also loved just the thought of, I think a lot of people, the conversation around transformation and vulnerability, often people think of people having to kind of be in that moment of crying on the bathroom floor, and that's when you're ready for transformation. That's when you're ready to be vulnerable, right? Um, and that's why people, I think, are scared of this conversation. But it can be, like you were saying, your friends that have good lives and they felt really comfortable and confident, and maybe they had small things out of alignment that they weren't aware of. And this can tap into that. It doesn't have to be this gigantic shift and this huge evolvement of who you are. It can be just the simple thing that really enhances the quality of your life. So I think that that's really important to talk about that as well, because it can be, like, again, meeting you where you are, but it can be for every person at their own level. And transformation doesn't have to happen because you're desperate for it. It can
No, it
just
doesn't
be a
have to be.
gift.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be something negative. It doesn't have to
Right.
necessarily be work.
Mm-hmm.
This can be fun. It can be playful. It can be celebratory, right?
Yeah.
You can, bring honor and gratitude, to the experience of travel, to life, and embark on a journey with that in mind. It doesn't
Mm-hmm.
mean that you have to be feeling, bad about something
Mm-hmm.
necessarily. But at the same time, I think that, that travel does give you that opportunity to take that step back. You're moving from beta to alpha waves, and you're tapping into creativity and innovation. You're gaining clarity, and when you're in that state, inevitably the good things are going to come up, and maybe some of the bad things too, and that's okay. That's part
Mm-hmm.
of the journey, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for that. I would love for people who are listening, you mentioned the journal that's going to be published this summer. People who are either travelers or maybe other industry professionals that are hearing about this and they feel like this might be a community that's a home for them. Can you just let them know how they can connect with you and with the TTC?
I think an airplane went over right at that time, and you went out. Was it how were they going to connect with me in
Yes.
the TTC?
Yes.
Is that what it was? Yeah. So you can find me at transformational.travel and learn more about the work that we're doing as a team, but also as a community, a global community of travel companies and hotels and lodges and guides and social enterprises, environmental organizations, all coming together, to move this idea, these concepts, and this philosophy forward. And so some just amazing people to tap into there, and including myself and my co-founder, Dr. Michael Bennett. And then also, you can find us over at Explorer X. That's where we take the theory, and really get to put it into practice over at Explorer X. And that's where Michael spends most of his time, is working on that, and working in a deep and real and immersive way, intentional way with travelers that are looking to embark on a journey.
Mm-hmm. Great. Thank you so much. I appreciate you joining me today and sharing around this topic. Like I said, it's one of my favorites, and even this conversation I've grown in. So I appreciate that very much.
And I have too. I really appreciate being on this path with you, and the honor is here. It means a lot. Every opportunity we have to get out there and hopefully get people tuned into the possibilities of travel.
Thank you.
Thanks, Christine. Bye-bye.